everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Hey, have you seen that internet meme where it says something and then says change my mind? Like pineapple goes on pizza, change my mind. And there's a guy sitting at a table out in a square.
No, I haven't seen that. No. Pineapple on pizza is a definite yes for me.
So no need to change your mind about that.
No need to change my mind about that. Heck no.
I think those are funny because it just kind of makes fun of the idea that some people are so passionate about some things, and it just brings some of the things we're passionate about are kind of absurd.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like pineapple on pizza. Some people would be like, absolutely no pineapple on pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. The world's a terrible place if that happens. Yeah. A little overboard.
Yeah. But
we do get funny about making decisions, don't we? We do get funny about that.
Yeah, and holding on to some beliefs that we've talked about it before, where beliefs come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we've explored that idea, but the idea that we just hang on to those and either change our, maybe we change our mind sometimes about things, and sometimes we just really don't want to change our minds about some things.
Yeah.
Is kind of interesting behavior to me.
Yeah. You know what? It's super funny. This week in coaching, I had two specific conversations with people that had made decisions about things, and they recognized after they made them that they clearly weren't in their best interest to make those choices that they had, but they had all this sort of nonsensical justification about why they couldn't change their mind. Why they couldn't, and it really had nothing to do with anyone else. It was their own judgments on themselves if they changed their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting.
So what is bad about changing your mind? Why would people not want to change their mind?
Oh, that's such a good question. What do you think?
Well,
because I think that's true. I think that's a really good question, and I think that's it happens all the time.
Changing your mind takes a lot of energy, frankly. It's kind of easy to just stick with your current thinking pattern. We've talked about, your brain is lazy.
Yeah.
So I think it's just very easy to be like, I don't know, I decided this is the way things are a long time ago, and I'm just going to stick with that because anything else is too much effort.
Yeah. That's...
as simple as that sounds, I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah. I think there's also some other things too. I think people don't want to change their mind. Yeah. So laziness, or not, I hate to use the word laziness in terms of it's the brain, we had, last week we were on the conversation about sleep, right? And we had a guest speaker that was on, and you know how Mary was talking about, our brains work really hard and that's why it needs sleep, right? So that it can recover and it can file all the data and everything else like that. One of the things that she didn't say in that conversation, but she has said in the past about it, is that the brain is lazy because the brain has to work so hard on so many things. It does try to make shortcuts as often as it possibly can to save energy. And I think this is in that space right here. Yeah. People sometimes don't like to change their minds or even reconsider options because it takes a lot of energy to do that. Yeah. And the brain doesn't want to do that. Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say lazy.
The other element of it is if I change my mind all the time, I come across as wishy-washy, or I'm not there's some value things around sticking to what you believe. Right? We've all heard some of these phrases.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be wishy-washy, and I want to have conviction on what I believe. And part of that is just sticking to my current mindset.
Ego. That's all ego.
Is it?
How do I look?
Yeah.
How do I look? If I change my mind, people are going to think this.
Yeah, in one way, changing your mind, or not being like, again, having like a strong consistency behind your beliefs sometimes comes across as weak.
Yes, I agree. And sometimes maybe,
but it might actually be the opposite of that.
It might be. Yes. So that was really interesting what you just said. So you said it could come off as weak. And then I started thinking about, do you know somebody that's always extraordinarily differential, doesn't like to take a stand, and will change their opinions and change their minds frequently? And how do we feel about people that way?
Not real good.
Exactly.
They're like, in one way, they're like, I wouldn't say like less trustworthy, but they're just kind of like, you're kind of like, you know, they're not, you couldn't rely on that person.
They don't have a strength of character, perhaps. Like you don't know if you're getting their true emotion or if they're just trying to get along with everybody in the moment and they're not making their own opinion. Right? So I think if you're talking about the spectrum of this, it's an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah.
And then you have on the opposite end of that, the people that are like hammered down, I made this decision, I made this choice, and come hell or high water, that's that.
Yeah.
And then you have, then you have the middle, which is the 80%, right? But it is an interesting thing to think about. Like, when is it okay to allow yourself to change your mind? Like, when is that okay? When do you allow yourself that flexibility? And when don't you? And why?
Oh, boy.
I know. So many questions.
Well,
I do have...
over time, things... and then there's the element of time that mixed into that whole question.
Well, I think time actually is the answer for a lot of the question. If you have I think it's personality traits again, as we talk about that, and natural ways of being. If you're somebody who has a very high sense of urgency, you don't like to noodle on a decision for a very long time, most of the time. Most of the time. If you have a very high sense of urgency, you really want to make the decision and run. And anything that is perceived as slowing you down, you're going to be more inclined to say, no, I don't want it to slow down, even if it means shifting your beliefs, shifting your thoughts, and shifting your mind to a different decision.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge one that you bring up.
So what are things that cause you to change your mind?
Oh. We're talking about relationships right now?
Maybe. Yeah. I'm just asking, like, generally, what causes people to change their minds on something? Maybe I had a view of like some political thing, could you change your mind on like your stance on abortion or some other kind of big topic? What would cause somebody to enact change the way they kind of maybe even fundamentally see the world?
That's so interesting. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is age and maturity. I think as you get older, you do become more aware of parts and pieces of things that you didn't see before. I think when you're younger, you're a lot more idealistic and you try to I think your lens is much more narrow. And I think as you age, you begin to get that lens becomes wider and you get more input. You hear other people more. You have your own personal experiences that may shift something that you thought. So I think age is something. How about
age?
you?
Yeah, I was gonna say experience too. Like the more you see, the more you start to realize, a lot of this is maybe way more nuanced than I thought when I was younger. So I've found, I wouldn't say I'd say I've become a lot more accepting in a lot of my viewpoints around things than I was when I was younger.
Oh my gosh, yes, I never even thought about that. That's true.
So my opinion, around some social issues, has definitely changed the more I experience people living in different contexts, so I think experience and when we're young, I think like we grow up in a neighborhood, in a family, we have a very small view of the world, but as our world view expands, I think that has the ability to really change your mind around how you see the world.
I have another one. Your courage. I think it is it takes great courage to have a conviction that you're willing to change publicly or in places where people are going to know that you do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that a lot of times we don't really want to be courageous. That feels scary, feels hard, feels like we're going to get judged. We may be judging ourselves really harshly.
Yeah, because who is a person? Like if you look at if I look at you, like I know Melissa, but what I really know is like the way you behave, the way you make decisions, the way you're going to show up. If you change your mind about something, about how you think the world works, I'm gonna have either I'm gonna hang on to the way you were, which is problematic, but I'm gonna have to accept and change who you are. So that's scary. It is scary to change yourself.
Yeah.
Because what you're really doing when you change your mind is you're changing yourself. You're changing your persona.
Oh, that's so good.
You're changing how other people might see you.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot in coaching because I think, I coach professionally for business, right? However, I coach the whole person. So we talk a lot, there will be times in coaching conversations where we don't talk a thing about work. We're just talking about home life or children or spouses or challenges that are happening that are preventing us from being our best selves at work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have found frequently happens is when someone gets into coaching, they become more open to the idea of change for themselves. However, the people around them, there's a lag period, right? They don't come along with you when you change. You change, and then they have to come along with you. So it's exactly what you were just talking about in the example of me, you looking at me. And I think that causes a challenge for a lot of people because the person being coached might say, well, I'm totally different now, and this person just doesn't understand me. So there's a judgment that goes backwards, like a look over the shoulder, and it's a judgment there. Whereas, and that other person might be like, well, this person I've lived with has always acted this way, and now suddenly they're not, and I don't know what to do to be in alignment with that. So that feels scary. I don't really want to change my mind or my opinion about things.
Yeah.
And yet now I feel scared not to. So it does cause a great imbalance for a little while sometimes.
There is even in that relationship example, I mean, I've seen it where it's like maybe one partner midlife, wants to really focus on maybe physical fitness.
Right.
Well, so now they're changing their mind around the importance of physical fitness. And that actually causes a little ruckus with the relationship because
they're canceling Pizza Friday.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh no, I don't want that. I'm just gonna eat a salad. And then it's like, wait, no, you were the pizza guy. What happened? Now you've changed.
Yeah, you broke all these you've made all these changes.
Yeah. So there's actually resistance from others that we will feel resistance because others will kind of impose that resistance on us if we are trying to change.
Yeah, exactly. On the professional side, I think there's also a great amount we can learn a lot here just in this idea of, on the professional side, if you are in leadership or if you are in a role of influence, maybe you don't have a formal leadership title, whatever, but you influence people around you at work all the time. And if you take a stand on something or you make a decision about something and it becomes clear that decision isn't the best, that's when our ego usually steps in. Our professional ego steps in with a club and bangs us over the head and says, don't make a big deal about this. Now you should just keep quiet. It didn't work. Or this decision was a bad one. People are going to think you're terrible. They're not going to like what you're doing. They're not going to want to. We tell ourselves all this stuff that may or may not be true. Yeah. It's likely very much not true. Yeah. But we do get into these habits where we're afraid to change something that we said or did because of the backlash of that, even if it's the right choice and it will help the situation.
One of the other things when in the context of like what things cause change, big life events cause you to change your mind.
Yeah.
Right. So like really an illness, you get cancer, like some big health scare can change your mind.
The loss of a loved one.
Death in the family or someone close to you can really change your mind. And it's interesting. We've all heard lots of stories about someone who has had a big trauma in their life, and they come out the other side of it different.
Yes. As a matter of fact, when you're studying personality assessment tools, the first thing that they will say is when you take an assessment tool, your personality remains consistent. Your behaviors can change all the time, but your personality remains consistent with one exception, and that is if you've had something big happen in your life. And the ones that they commonly use are what you just stated, and a couple others: a big move, a divorce, a new job, some kind of status change or what have you. People can radically change because of it. However, they find that in about 5 years, the person will go back to who they were.
Oh,
like that's the timeline, is about 5 years. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of space in there for all sorts of odd change, or not odd, different or unusual change for that person.
Yeah, so you're kind of saying like some of that, well, in the personality assessment way, it's not permanent.
Right. Although 5 years probably feels pretty permanent to a lot of people.
Yeah. It might snap and then like slowly go back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It is interesting though, like, our relationship with willing to change our minds. I think it's a fascinating thing to think about, because it can actually really prevent us from so many beautiful things in our lives because we're afraid to change our minds.
Yeah, I actually, when I grabbed a couple quotes about changing your mind because I always think that's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's this one quote I found: if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And I thought that was really profound because there's things like, what it makes me think about is like the stories we tell ourselves. Those are, that's our mindset. And if you can change those stories, you can change your life. If you can change the story you have around, the kinds of relationships you have, your physical well-being, if you can change your mindset around those things, you can really have a big impact on your whole life.
I totally agree with you. And I was just reminded of a quote that I have written on my on one of my laptops, and it's a Wayne Dyer quote. So I kind of have gone through this recently where I was really studying a lot of Wayne Dyer. I always love studying thought leaders, right? And I've kind of been on a kick with Wayne Dyer lately. And I saw this quote of his. It's written all over, memes everywhere, and I have it memorized, which I don't normally, but I love it. And it says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. And I do think that's kind of profound.
Yeah.
If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I apply that in coaching all the time. Because a lot of times we tell ourselves a specific story, then we look for substantiating evidence to prove the story's right, even if it's wrong.
So if I've changed my mind about something, maybe something significant, like, let's say like religion. What if I change my mind around the way I approach, faith or spirituality? Like you said, you're going to get like a lot of resistance external resistance as soon as you start,
as soon as you're out with it.
So how do you change your mind and bring people along with you, or should you do that?
That's a good question. I'm inclined to offer something that is maybe not popular. But I'm inclined to offer that when you do make a change or you change your mind because it's best for you, the best way to bring people along with you is to not worry about if they're coming along with you. to not feel like you have to justify or explain. You know, they always talk about when you're trying to make changes that the thing you don't want to do is ask other people's opinions about it. Like if you're learning something new about yourself and you're exploring these things, you're trying some different things out, other people's opinions of you is none of your business.
Oh, did you just say other people's opinions of you are none of your business?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Because you can't control them, you can't change them, so it doesn't really matter. But too often we spend all of our energy focusing on that. What does this person think of me? What is this person going to think if I change my mind? How am I going to say that? What do I need to convince people? You don't. You do not have to.
That is our need to like be part of the tribe, right? This is like a social, like I want to keep fitting in. And if I change, maybe I might not fit in anymore.
Right.
That's a really deep fear
I know
that you have to overcome. And that's why you said like courage is the thing.
Yeah. And I would say, how about we all participate in a little social experiment? All of our listeners. Okay. How about if we just kind of think through a little change that we want to make and we just make it. And we do a social experiment where we do two things, a couple of different people that are close to us. Okay. One person, we're going to say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm a little like, what do you think about, you know, and how about, okay, do that with that perspective.
Okay.
Notice how they respond to you. Notice what they say and notice if they're answering you through the lens that they see the world. Okay. And then on another side, another relationship, don't ask for an opinion. Be enthusiastic about something that you've decided and just say, I'm really excited about this because this is what I'm doing. And see if that person naturally comes along with you and doesn't question you and just goes, oh, okay, well, that sounds good. Good luck. Because I think you'll find a very interesting thing will happen. You'll notice that whatever energy you're putting out is what you get back.
Yeah.
Whatever energy you put out is what you get back. So if you are making a courageous decision to make some sort of change, do so with self-support in mind. Do so with gratitude that you've got the courage, you're going to do it, and come out in that way. And you will find that people are more likely to support that.
All right. I will run that experiment. I'll see how it goes. I'm gonna.
What are you gonna do? I know you're gonna start eating bread.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what I was thinking is like I'm gonna tell somebody that I'm thinking about stopping with my addiction to Mike and Ike's. I'm gonna stop eating so many Mike and Ike's.
Do not ask me to participate in this with you. I'm not going. I am not gonna quit Mike and Ike's.
Well, the approach. Well, the approach of just changing and then just going ahead with the change and not caring about what other people think, that is also like a virtue that is interesting to think about, right? Because some people just, what it makes me think of is some people ask permission to do things or change, and some people just do them. And there's like some doers and there's some askers. And you're just advocating, like, just be the doer personality around this. And
well, I am with a caveat. So I'm not talking about doing stupid things and not caring if the people around that love you are worried. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about making change just to be whatever, just to do it, you know, to throw caution to the wind. I don't mean that kind of change. I mean something that you know is really what's best for you and it feels good. Like that's what I'm talking about. Because no one will give you the kind of attention that you give you. No one. Even the one that loves you the most. How much of their undivided attention do you get during the day? Not very much.
Not much.
No. So it's about you and you. And that's why I'm saying in that situation, it's okay. It's okay to do that for you. It's okay to take that stand. It's okay for you to do the change. And know that if people love you truly, they will come along with you in that change. It might take them a little longer. It might take them some of their own courage as well. but they will.
The in the self-awareness journey, we are kind of advocating generally for changing your mind, right? To start knowing yourself better, and then honoring the things you're learning as you go through that process. So this whole thing is about changing your mind.
Yeah.
And with self-awareness, at least for me, it's not like it's an overnight change. It's not like a traumatic event where I went through a thing and now I'm different on the other side. This is like a slow change over a decade. Right. So it's not like super abrupt, or the people around me aren't like, oh, JJ woke up one day and now he's way different. But even Amber recognizes the way I think now is very different than when we were first married in our 20s. Yeah, I bet. So,
yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's her self-awareness developing too, so that she notices it. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think we're in a constant evolution. I think what we're really talking about is the change that we are cognitively aware of, where we're making change all the time, but we don't notice it. And if they're microcosmic little changes, then it's not scary. But all of a sudden, the minute we have some realization that there's some sort of change occurring, that's usually when we seize up and get scared and we lose some of our courage. And we start worrying about not fitting in. We worry about what everybody else is going to think. What about all of our peeps? Are they going to be friends with me anymore if I suddenly don't like this anymore? And, then we go into this whole spiral of self-doubt.
Yep.
So I just love that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah. Great quote.
It's interesting.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.